Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you again for another one of my videos. I'm going to try and do as many of these as I can now as we build up to the summer. Obviously, the transfer window's fast approaching. I'll get so many questions about transfers. I'll do my best to answer them as best I can, and with a disclaimer, at the moment there is still so much uncertainty. It's very hard to be definitive on anything when it comes to Arsenal transfers at the moment because there's so much uncertainty in terms of where Arsenal are going to go in the window, how much money they're going to have to spend in the window, how much other clubs are going to have to spend in the window, what offers may arrive. So it's very hard at this point in time to be definitive, but still I know how much interest there is in transfers. I know how much you want to know, which is why I get so many questions on social media day after day after day. And so I'll try and sort of do as many of these videos as I can, just sort of short, sharp ones, talking about the latest transfer rumours that are doing around and basically giving my sort of take on them and what I sort of understand the situation. If I do know anything about the situation, I'll try and do my best to explain where I think Arsenal stand regarding some of the speculation that's doing around. I did one yesterday, and I'll try and do another one. If there's stories to do, if there's speculation doing around, I'll try and do one of these videos as much as I can, just to, as I said, give you my take on the situation. So we'll go another one. First of all, actually, just before I get onto this, obviously Arsenal are in action tonight against Leicester City. Big game at the Emirates. I'll be heading there later. So please do follow my social media, which is @Charles_Watts, throughout the day, and during the match I'll be doing live updates from the Emirates with some reaction, some sort of reaction piece afterwards as well as Mikel Arteta's press conference. Hopefully another 3 points for Arsenal, which would be a 5th successive win in all competitions after that fantastic victory at Wolves at the weekend. So please do keep an eye on my social media channels throughout the day for all the build-up and live coverage from Arsenal's game against Leicester. Right, let's go straight into this, shall we? We'll start with Alexandre Lacazette. He's a big story doing the rounds today, and that's because L'Équipe over in France, a big French publication, are reporting the Inter Milan, Juventus and Atletico Madrid are all very, very interested in Lacazette. They say that Inter are seeing him as a potential replacement for Martinez if Martinez goes to Barcelona. Barcelona are obviously very keen on him. Say Juventus are keen on him and have already made contact with Lacazette and his representatives. So have Atletico Madrid, L'Équipe claim. And both clubs would be interested in possibly doing swap deals with Arsenal to see if they could get Lacazette to them when the window opens later in the summer. My understanding on the Lacazette situation, look, we've spoken to Mikel Arteta quite regularly on this in the last couple of weeks, and I said during my video yesterday what I thought Arteta's comments about Lacazette meant were that he didn't confirm anything really. When he's talked about the contract for talks for Lacazette, he said that he needed to speak to Lacazette, find out where, what his mind was at and where he thinks about the next step. So I think if Arsenal can, I think Lacazette's one of the players they'd look to possibly move on in the summer, especially if they can manage to get Upamecano to sign a new deal. I think they'll look at Lacazette, 2 years left on his contract. They'll have to make a decision this summer on Lacazette. Will they give him a big new contract, which will take him into his 30s, well into his 30s, or will they look to move him on, bring in some money and see if they can revamp the squad that way? Because that's how Arsenal are going to have to revamp the squad this summer. Well, we're already in the summer, but you know what I mean, this summer window when it finally opens, is they're going to have to bring in money, bring in cash, and that will allow them to revamp the squad because there's not much cash available, and Stan Kroenke certainly isn't going to chuck his own money in to really give Arsenal some leeway in the transfer market. So they're going to have to do some clever business, move people on. Guendouzi, as I said yesterday, I think he's someone Arsenal will look to move on. Again, he's got 2 years left on his contract. He's out of favour at the moment, not even training with the team. Hasn't been involved at all since the Brighton incident. Him and Arteta are very much in a big standoff. I think he's someone that they'll look to move on, but Lacazette as well, if an offer comes in. And obviously L'Équipe are reporting 3 very big clubs here are looking at him. The Atletico Madrid, I talked on it yesterday, it certainly for me sounds the most viable option of the lot. Atletico have got a long-standing interest in Lacazette. They wanted him before he signed for Arsenal. They probably would have signed him before he went to Arsenal, but they had the transfer ban that summer, and that's why Arsenal moved in and got him. Simeone's a big fan of Lacazette, and obviously Atletico Madrid have got Thomas Partey, a player that Arsenal desperately want and who is quite keen on a move to the Emirates. So you sort of look at that as a possible swap deal that could happen. And as I've said before in previous videos, clubs are going to have to be creative in this transfer window because there's not much money to play with. So swap deals are very much going to be on the agenda. Mikel Arteta admitted in the build-up to Leicester's game, and if you haven't read this yet, go onto my social media channel or go to goal.com and read the story from Arteta's presser where he talks about Dani Ceballos and the swap deals. They say he's open to them. The club have to be open to them in this challenging market, and that's where I think, for me, out of everything, the Atletico link with Lacazette is the one that I think is the most viable, the option. Juventus, as far as I'm aware, speaking to people I know over in Turin, Milik at Napoli is very much their priority in terms of bringing it forward this summer. He's the player they want, and Laka doesn't really fit the bill of the player they're looking for in terms of what I've been told from people that I know over in Turin. So I would say right now, if I was going to put some money down on where Lacazette, and I'm not advising you to gamble, please gamble away if you do, that if I was going to put some money down on who Lacazette's going to end up playing for next season, if it's not Arsenal, I would say right now Atletico Madrid seems to tick the right boxes, especially with Thomas Partey's situation. So that's where I think we are with the Lacazette. But obviously, if you haven't seen it yet, go over to L'Equipe and have a look at the story that they ran this morning about that. Dani Ceballos now, as I said just about a minute ago, I ran a story last night from Arteta's press conference about Dani Ceballos. He's sort of admitting that he's open to potentially keeping Ceballos for next season, most likely on another loan that he would like the clubs to talk, but he admits it's not in Arsenal's hands. Obviously, it's not. He's a Real Madrid player, and Arsenal don't have a clause in Ceballos' contract to make the move permanent. But Arteta seems like he's open to bringing him back if he can. And he also, in that same story about that I posted last night on Goal, that he's open that Arsenal need to be aware of the whole sort of swap market this summer, and that's something they probably opportunities are going to arrive to do some business in terms of swaps, and that's what I was talking about with the Lacazette Thomas Partey swap. My thoughts on Ceballos, I'm still going to be surprised if he's an Arsenal player next season. I just think for him as well, obviously the Euros are next summer. He's going to want to be playing regular first-team football. That's why he chose Arsenal this season, because of the assurances Unai Emery gave him when he was deciding where he was going to go. I'm not sure, especially if Arsenal managed to bring in Thomas Partey or another powerful midfielder to play alongside Granit Xhaka. I just don't see Ceballos being a regular starter next season, so I'm not sure for him a return to Arsenal is going to be that appealing. And I'm still not convinced by Ceballos. I know he's playing pretty well at the moment, but I'm not sure what he really offers at either end, I do know what he offers, but he doesn't offer enough, is what I'm saying. I think you look at his goals, you look at his assists, not really done it for me at that end of the pitch, which is why Arsenal are really struggling for goals, and that link between midfield and attack is not really there. And defensively, although I think him and Xhaka have formed a better partnership recently, I still think Arsenal can improve, and they would improve if they brought in a Partey-type player to play alongside Xhaka. So I'm not sure about Ceballos. I can understand what Arteta's saying. Obviously, it's a squad player, but I just think with money tight, with wage bill needing to be trimmed or wages need to be spent elsewhere, for me, I just think Dani Ceballos, I think it's been a decent enough season on loan, but I think this should probably be it, and he should head back to Madrid and then head off somewhere else. So I'm not convinced by Ceballos, and I still think right now, as far as it stands, it's probably more likely that he won't be at Arsenal next season. But Mikel Arteta obviously says he's quite open to it, so we'll see where that goes over the coming weeks. Dayot Upamecano, obviously the defender that has been heavily linked with Arsenal. Arsenal have got interest in him. There was sort of initial talks last summer, never came to anything because of how much he was going to cost and things like that. Obviously, he's coming into the final year of his contract now at Leipzig, and it's been made pretty clear that he does want to move away. Interesting story in L'Equipe about Upamecano today, saying that he does want to move, but he doesn't want to go to one of Europe's top sides. And look, I'm not saying Arsenal aren't one of Europe's top sides, but you see what I'm saying. By that he means sort of Champions League, competing for the very top honours. And let's face it, as sad as it is, at the moment Arsenal aren't really one of those sides. He doesn't want to go to a top side where he's going to be struggling for game time. He wants to go where he's going to be a guaranteed starter at this stage of his career. Obviously, you'd say if he signed for Arsenal, he would absolutely be a guaranteed starter next season. So it's an interesting one. Arsenal very much, they do like him. They've been looking at him for a long time. Like I said, there was interest in him last summer. It's just, for me, I think the situation money-wise is going to make it really difficult for Arsenal to be able to get that done. Their priority is Thomas Partey. He is very much a player that Arsenal want to sign. They've brought in Mari, Louis and Cedric for next season. Obviously, those permanent deals were agreed. So they've got the defenders there. They've got Chambers come back from injury. They've got Holding still. There is interest in Axel Disasi over in France, who'd be a lot cheaper than Upamecano if they were to get another centre back in. But it's an interesting one. You know, if they do manage to move some players on, if they do bring in some really decent money from transfer fees, then you know, I do. There is, as I said, there is interest in him from Arsenal, and they would be in the mix if they had the sort of money to get a deal done. Now, the story in L'Équipe says that if there is still a chance that he would sign a contract extension with Leipzig if it looks like he isn't going to get a sort of move that appeals to him this summer. So again, that's one to keep an eye on for me, the Upamecano links. But my take on it, I'd just be surprised given the financial cost of any deal if it was going to happen, whether Arsenal can sort of tempt Leipzig into some sort of swap again. We'll have to wait and see, but he's certainly someone who's on the radar of Arsenal. He's a player that the scouts really like, they've identified, the club like, they're aware of. Well, obviously they're aware of, but they held talks with initial sort of talks last summer about the exploring whether a deal could be done. It couldn't, and so yeah, my take on it, I don't think so, but it's certainly one to keep an eye on over the coming weeks. And lastly, there's a story about Saint-Maximin doing rounds at the moment. I'd be just surprised on it. I just think the cost, he's got a long-term contract in Newcastle that he only signed last year. He had a very good season. Going to a rival Premier League club, Newcastle would want an awful lot of money for it, and I just don't see it. Arsenal have got Pepe, they've got Saka, they've got Nelson, they've got Martinelli, they've got plenty of options. They've got Aubrey's playing on the left at the moment. They've got plenty of options. So in terms of Saint-Maximin, I would be stunned if that was something that pops up this summer in terms of Arsenal. Right, that's it. That's it for the video. Thank you very much for joining me. Short, sharp one again, just like yesterday. And as I said at the beginning, I'll try and do as many of these as I can up to and through the window just to keep you updated and give you my thoughts and my take on where Arsenal stand in regard to some of the speculation that does the rounds. So thank you very much. And like I said earlier, please do join me throughout the day for all the live coverage of tonight's game against Leicester and all the reaction as well. Have a good day, everyone. Stay safe.